This is not a drill. Splinter Twin 5-0'd in Legacy. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and today we get to play with one of my absolute favorite Magic cards, Splinter Twin. The RealPokimoki just 5-0'd with Splinter Twin and was kind enough to share the deck list with me. In case you don't know the general combo, you equip a creature with like Deceiver Exarch or Pestermite with your nice little Splinter Twin enchantment. You tap the creature that has a Splinter Twin on it to make a copy of this creature, which then untaps the original, and this loop allows you to create infinite creatures. And this used to be one of the premier decks in Modern, back when Modern was good and I played it and had fun and won a lot of games of Magic. Hopefully they'll unban it at some point so I can do that again. The reason why we're looking at Splinter Twin in Legacy right now actually has to do with the Lord of the Rings set, believe it or not. It's the One Ring. So I want you to imagine that you play the One Ring, you get protection from everything, you draw a card off of it. And then it's your next turn. You tap the One Ring, you draw 2 cards. You cast a Deceiver Exarch, you untap the One Ring. You draw 3 cards. See where this is going? Untapping the One Ring is something we've already seen in Legacy, with cards like Voltaic Key or Manifold Key doing it in sort of the Mystic Forge colorless combo deck. Well, what happens if we just give like kind of a Jeskai control deck list access to a game-ending combo like Splinter Twin while also feeding them a whole bunch of cards by untapping the One Ring? Let's take a look at the full deck list. Now, today's video is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. as well as moxfield.com, and if you need paper Magic cards, please check out Cool Stuff Inc. and use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on your order. So here is the deck list in all of its glory. We see kind of a lot of the elements of a traditional Legacy control deck here, although there are a couple of non-conventional things, such as Stifle and Fire Ice here as well, that give us a little bit of flexibility in what problems we can deal with. Note that we are relatively light on actual win conditions. So just kind of taking a look at this deck list, we very, very much are planning on making infinite critters with Splinter Twin. A lot of times these decks just kind of have a fair, weak beatdown plan, but there's 4 creatures in this deck. There's no man lands to save us. We are planning on going infinite when we win, although we do have some additional creatures and another very powerful card from the Lord of the Rings set to serve as an alternative finisher when we need it. Speaking of the Lord of the Rings set, hey, we have another way to draw a bunch of cards that also will help us hit our land drops. Note here that we are a little heavy on land compared to maybe some other Legacy decks. We have a lot of cantrips to really help us hit those land drops because we do just want to make it to 4. We don't have Ancient Tomb to help us kind of cheat along the way. Most of the stuff in the sideboard here is relatively stock, although I do want to kind of shout out Sanctifier in Vec, which is just kind of a card that is medium in a lot of places. This is never going to be like the ultimate game-ending card, but you can play this versus Reanimator. This can still be a very reasonable body versus a deck like Moon Stompy. It has protection from relevant colors. It can be a good blocker, and it's not an X1, so it's not going to die to something like Orcish Bowmasters. Also, it's pro-black, so it couldn't die to it anyway. So yeah, let's see how this goes. One other interaction you need to be aware of. The One Ring gives you protection from everything until your next turn when it enters the battlefield if you cast it. And guess what? We have a way to bounce it to our hand to reset the counters as well as get another turn worth of protection. Thank you very much to Michael H. for donating to make this league happen. Let's battle. Okay, I am a little mana light here. I have a bit of an awkward brainstorm in that I can't brainstorm and then fetch to clear. I am kind of unexcited about this hand. I think I'm going to keep it with the intention of on turn 2 just using ice to tap my opponent's land to just cantrip and get a little deeper in my deck. It becomes awkward for me if my opponent doesn't fetch. which they did not. So how do I want to treat this now? I will go ahead and brainstorm. Sure. Basic swamp. Dark Ritual's fine. I'll just Force of Will the opposition agent. Oh, it's Orcish Bowmasters instead. I mean, I've just got fire in hand. That feels fine. Sure. Grab a Tundra. Play this. Attempt to change phases. There's a Swamp Cycle, which is fine. And I'm comfortable just doing this now. Another Swamp from my opponent, and a Douthie Voidwalker. That does not feel like it is worth a Force of Will to me. We'll say that's fine. Mana's a little awkward here. I think I do need to brainstorm and try to hit my next land drop. Am rewarded. Am I past the point in the game where I need Force of Will? Might be past the point in the game where I need Force of Will actively. Do I have another Tundra? Do have another Tundra. I think that's what I'm getting here. And then we will just go ahead and immediately swords that. And we've got Snapcaster Swords for the next thing that comes along. Another Orcish Bowmasters is a little annoying versus the One Ring. Ball Therapy resolves. That is a great name from my opponent. That is the card that I would probably be most scared of if I was in their position. But it is, unfortunately for them, a miss. Alright, let's see what they're doing. Suspending a Profane Tutor is the answer. Well, there's half my combo. Let's fetch. Grab a Volk, and we're gonna just do some good old-fashioned drawing of cards. While my opponent does not have Bowmasters up. Teferi's cool. Teferi is a counter for Profane Tutor. Because you don't get to cast spells with fun timing if I have Teferi. Boy. That's a little annoying here. It's not like the worst. Note there that my opponent targeted themselves because I do have protection from everything as of right now. Alright. I lose some life. Let's go land drop. I guess I shouldn't ever need double white. Well, okay, there's a fringe scenario where I want double white. I never want red. Let's do Teferi. We will go ahead and... This is actually interesting. So, I always counter Profane Tutor if I just bounce an Orc. Now, I guess the timing restriction still exists. I'm still fine bouncing this. The Teferi will do what I need it to do. Okay, Prismatic Ending is great. I am going to just cast a Brainstorm now. Cool. I'll hide a Deceiver Exarch on top of my library. Actually, I'll hide both Deceiver Exarch and Splinter Twin on top of my library. I just have the One Ring in play. Now, do I want to hold up Stifle or Prismatic Ending this token? I want to Prismatic Ending the token. Alright, good stuff. So we counter Profane Tutor, as my opponent cannot legally cast it with Teferi in play. And then my opponent can ping my Teferi and kill it, and I'm just okay with that. Cabal Therapy resolves. Okay, they took my Snapcaster Mage. Planning on using that to get rid of the Bowmasters. It's not that big of a deal. I think I'll just play Volk and pass, and then just kill my opponent next turn. Is this a fine play right now? Let's say yes. Just freeze up my ring if everything works. Everything might not work. So let's tap this forest. Bowmasters is fine. I'm okay just stifling that trigger. Go ahead and take that block there. Yep. So if I draw with this, my opponent could kill Deceiver Exarch, so I'm not into that. I'll just lose 2 life, draw my Splinter Twin, and we'll move on. Note here that a Snuff Out can beat me, but they did not have it. Alright, that felt pretty good. So it looks like my opponent is probably Mono Black plus Witherbloom Apprentice Chain of Smog combo, if I were to guess. Lavinia is interesting here as another way to counter Profane Tutors. I think I'm into that. I'm probably in on Sanctifier Invec to stop Grief Reanimate nonsense. I probably don't mind having a singular win condition. This is okay. Rifle is interesting here. A little weird when I'm on the draw. I don't know that I'm just like super into it. Force of Negation is medium until it's absolutely game winning. That's just kind of how that is going to work. My graveyard is going to get taxed in this matchup. I don't know that I'm into that card. Prismatic Ending isn't the best removal spell. I might go down one of those. Boarding in Brotherhood's End while also boarding in Lavinia is a little weird. This is a decisively medium opening hand. If I get my second land drop, I just have like both ice and fire available, plus more cantrips. I think this is fine. I also have Force of Negation to keep some of the most broken stuff in check. I would say I'm not excited about this one, but it's fine. Sure. I am just going to Sorcery Speed Ponder here. That's not what I'm looking for. Like a shuffle looking for a land. I did not find it, which means that I could end up doing a very painful brainstorm next turn. Ooh. That's an Archon of Cruelty. I have Force of Negation to stop that. But if I get griefed first, it's definitely scary. Alright, there is the Reanimate. Let's attempt this. And see if my opponent Veil of Summers me. They did not. Good. Alright, help me, Brainstorm. You're my only hope. Fuck you, Brainstorm. You piece of shit. Okay, life's bad. This was just a game that I was never going to win. Like, I looked at 4 cards for a land, I looked at 3 cards for a land, and I had 2 draw steps, and I just missed on, what, 4, 5, 6, 7? Yeah, I missed on lands on 9 looks. Note, this is not worth Force of Willing, just in terms of raw resources, but this hits me for at least 6 damage if it resolves as of right now, because I know I'm missing my next 2 land drops, so this is just where I'm at. That's super unfortunate. We also are a land-heavy deck, and Lorien Revealed also would have been a hit. Yeah. I discard the 1 ring. This game is pretty much over. So if I don't draw a white land, I am fully dead. I'm at 7, and I'm taking 9 next turn. Yep. This is in theory fine. I have 2 copies of Swords to Plowshares. As soon as a second threat is presented, it's not fine anymore. I lost the Exarch. Cabal Therapy is pretty damning. Alright. Not technically dead. Stop it. Ugh. So we're going to go ahead and tap Archon of Cruelty. That gets us through this turn at 4 life, though. And it costs an Orcish Bowmaster's trigger as well. So it's really less than 4. So I think I can Source of Plowshares this Archon, and then I'm just dead to board. No, okay, I've got an out. Literally 1, I think. Not anymore, I don't. We can concede there. Let's go to a game 3 scenario. I can consider Surgical Extraction now. Now that I know that there's also a more dominant graveyard-oriented plan. Sure. I'm not excited about it. There's also some times where I might do a fair Surgical Extraction on something like an Orcish Bowmasters. This is fine. Unexciting, but fine. Alright. So let's grab a Tundra to start things off. And Ponder. is kind of whatever. Yeah, I'm just going to shuffle. I have Force of Will and Brainstorm as an emergency stop to something going on over there that I don't like. That's annoying. Going to just let that happen. I've lost the Brainstorm. There's some swamp cycling happening. My opponent passes the turn. My hand is very mid right now. After that grief. Well, that's annoying. I'm going to just let that resolve. My opponent named Surgical here. Cool. But if I cast Surgical, then they also get to take another card, so I don't even know for sure that they have Reanimate stuff yet. And even if I Surgical one of the things, they still get to reanimate a valid card in either timeline. Okay, there is the Reanimate. My opponent goes for the Grief, taking the Prismatic Ending. That's fine. That's cool for next turn. I think I'm just going to go ahead and double fetch right now before I randomly run into something like an opposition agent that would make me sad. So let's grab a Valk and a secondary Tundra and then pass the turn. We are hoping to avoid Orcish Bowmasters. There's some chance that my opponent just has it because they took Prismatic Ending preemptively. But if my opponent doesn't immediately have Orcish Bowmasters, like the One Ring is a very real way back into this game. But if they do have Orcish Bowmasters, fuck! No! Alright. That's rough. So, do I still play the One Ring? I think I do. It's just awkward. We have protection from everything. And now I loot with this. So I'm going to discard Force of Will. We drew another One Ring. So we're going to look for a Chains of Mephistopheles so that we can get rid, or sorry, we're going to look for a Prismatic Ending to get rid of Chains of Mephistopheles. How many of those do I actually have? One more. Okay. Did I board out the other one? Sure did. Fuck. Okay. Teferi. We're looking for Teferi then. That's fine. We do have 2-for-1 cards like Supreme Verdict in our deck that can help take a lot of this pressure off. Alright. Let's do this thing. Discard Scalding Tarn. Discard Ponder. Deceiver Exarch A. Okay. A plan is emerging. We're going to untap our ring. We're going to Ancestral. Kind of. No. 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 I will Swords to Plowshares Douthie Voidwalker, as that now represents a whole bunch of different cards. I don't play this land. I want things that I can loot away with the ring. Grief plus the One Ring is a hell of a clock, and I had to discard one of my copies of the One Ring to kind of loot for answers to chains / something else to do. So that's just a thing to be aware of. Fuck. Yeah. Alright. No, that's cool. Very notably, if I activate the One Ring, it is draw 4, and exactly drawing 4 is enough to kill Deceiver Exarch. So, bad spot. Especially since I need to win the game on my turn. Okay, my opponent has sacrificed a token to Cabal Therapy me. And they named Splinter Twin and missed. Let's see what the follow-up play is here. A second Chains. Alright, I lose some life. I'm so fucking good at Magic, and I just really want to make sure that you all understand that. The reason that I win is because I am a skillful magician. No other reason. GG's. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, which is just the best place to keep your online deck lists. And one of the things that I love about them is that you can use it to keep track of what cards you do and don't have for a deck. So for example, in this deck list, I have all of the cards, so there are nice blue bubbles filled in here, and that's automatically ported over to your collection tab, where you can see exactly what cards you do and don't have. All right, the first hand is an auto mulligan. It has no mana here. The second one is fine. I'm going to keep it. I will probably pitch the... I want to pitch the prismatic ending with this hand, I think. I'm never pitching the Force of Will against an opponent who's mulliganing aggressively. The basic lands are a little rough in terms of my sequencing here. I'm just supposed to get non-basics with this deck a huge portion of the time. I am going to need to make more land drops, and none of those things help me make more land drops. I am just going to go ahead and shuffle. Force of Negation is a little tempting there, but okay. We're probably playing against like some creative technique deck, which is definitely a little scary. Okay, I gotta shuffle. The Swords to Plowshares goes back. Secondary Force of Will can go back. I'll keep the Lorien Revealed in hand. Okay, yeah, that's just another one. We'll go ahead and island cycle and get a volcanic island. Land drops are great. Let's make one. And I probably just tap down a land on my opponent's turn, because we're at the point where an Ancient Tomb can just get to appropriate levels of mana to do something stupid. So let's tap the blue-red one. There's another one of those lands. Splinter Twin off the top. Oh my god. So fucking good at Magic. Can't unban it in Modern, because I will just fucking do this to people. GG's. There's only 2 of those in the deck, by the way. So just real quick, this is the card in question that I'm talking about, and notably, with Demonstrate, very weird things can happen, and it kind of makes Force of Will much less of a good answer. So keeping that in mind, I would like Flusterstorm. I probably want Hydroblast. Like, I can still stack up 2 counters to beat one of those. Lavinia seems very good. Might just play this as another finisher / source of card advantage. Okay, so I don't know exactly how this deck is constructed, but I'm guessing Prismatic Ending does minimal things. And my Swords to Plowshares also probably don't really matter. There are creatures in the deck, but we're probably trying to rely on things like Supreme Verdict to clean those up if they actually get into play. Oh, Teferi. Be still my beating heart. Keep. Hopefully I can make it to turn 3. Is that another? Okay, yeah, that's another double land. That's fine. So if I make it to turn 3, which is pretty likely, because a lot of my opponent's lands are going to enter tapped. Maybe all of them. Yeah. But I think we're good if I get 1 more land drop, at least to start with. Fuck. So my opponent gets 6 mana. Alright, so here's how this is going to work. They're going to cascade. They cascade into Creative Technique, which they get to demonstrate so that they can copy it. If they copy it, I also get to do it. I will not cast that card. Now they get their copies. They hit another Creative Technique. So they'll copy it. Yes, I will Hydroblast something. We'll counter a copy of Creative Technique. Opponent hits Boarding Party. Hitting Creative Technique. I get to do the thing. I will Force of Negation a copy of Creative Technique. My opponent copies. Finds Creative Technique. Creative Technique, Creative Techniques on your Creative Technique. Yes, I will cast that. Very, very nice. Okay. So, yeah, good sideboard card is good. GG's. All right, round 3. This is an acceptable hand, I would say. If my opponent is playing a decently fair creature deck, never mind. Okay. Don't know why we floated a colorless mana before doing that. Oh, I found out why. Okay, sure. So, we have the wrong sort of hand for this matchup. Something, something, something timing. I'm going to play Plateau and pass. The reason I'm doing this is so that my opponent maybe thinks I am on red-white initiative rather than on a noble blue deck with good counterspells. When they just effing kill me this turn. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. It's just another monolith. Nothing to be alarmed about. It's something to be alarmed about. Is this game lost? Because if I think this game is lost, I should just concede now and deny my opponent any sort of information. Those Basalt Monoliths don't untap. My opponent is going to get 3 extra draws this turn cycle, 1 from the One Ring, and then 2 from the next activation. Any of those getting into any sort of piece of action just destroys me. I don't think I'm 0% here, but I think I am at a low enough percent that I'm just going to concede. All right. Yes. Yes, yes. Dress Down is interesting for Urza Saga Construct tokens. I'll probably play that. So it looks like I need to make room for about 5 slots. Probably go down some number of Swords to Plowshares. Snapcaster Mage feels slow. Stifle feels not great, but might be exactly what I need to make it through a turn cycle sometimes. If I go down all the copies of Swords to Plowshare, I can also just ice my opponent's lands. I actually don't hate this card either. Actually playing a bunch of sweepers alongside Lavinia is weird. That's always going on artifact mode. Okay, I think I've changed my mind about Supreme Verdict. I'm not 100% sure on boarding here. Stifle's lucky. This gets a nope from me. This is turn 2 Lavinia. Hopefully turn 3 Brotherhood's End. This is fine. I pitched the lucky Stifle. Alright, pitch Stifle. And we'll just go land pass. Unfortunately, my opponent will get a bunch of 0 drops out of their hand immediately. Dress Down is a great thing to have versus this current situation. Alright. Force of Will's just okay. This is probably a plateau so that any land gets me to Brotherhood's End. There we go. This Force of Will is an emergency out. And I really mean it when I say emergency, because I want to cast the Dress Down to get rid of the Urza Saga tokens. Yes. Yes. I just want to cast Dress Down on my opponent's turn 100% of the time. I'm not going to get greedy and ponder and miss a blue land and end up in a terrible spot. Like, this ponder can be a Force of Will pitch. Alright, a construct. Everything is big. Alright, many keys. Yes. I might need to take 7 here so that I don't give my opponent an opportunity to cast a 4-drop that they currently can't cast. It's a little weird. Not a normal situation at all. Alright, so Dress Down. Draw a card. Hopefully it's a land. It's not a land. Still not a land. Okay. This is a ponder turn, I think. I just need the land drops. Hello. I will indeed take 2 of these for sure. No shuffle there. I have Brotherhood's End next turn. I might still just want to get rid of the Grim Monolith, as it probably causes my opponent to take a fair amount of damage on their turn. We'll do that for 2 colors. And then we lose Dress Down. I've got 1 counterspell, and it's pretty difficult for my opponent to play 2 Haymakers this turn. Nice. So do I play the One Ring or just play Brotherhood's End? That's a good question. I think I play the One Ring. Red, white, blue, blue. Grab another Tundra. The One Ring helps out a lot if my opponent just top decks something like an Urza Saga. Cool. And I will almost certainly kill my opponent faster than the One Ring kills me, even if I draw some extra cards. Alright. They just can't tap things with Ancient Tomb. Plus I can do bounce nonsense as well. With something like a Teferi. Hey, it's a Teferi. I'm plenty happy to play that. Let's ponder first. I'm not interested in any of that. Well, I got some of it back anyway. So, land drop, Teferi. I just Teferi plus for this turn. I think I just Teferi plus for this turn and bounce next turn. Yes, your key is fine. I will take 2 from the One Ring. Okay, my opponent is done with me. Lavinia just doing heavy lifting today. On the draw, how do I want to change things? On the draw, more Answers to Urza Saga tokens become appealing. But maybe I don't play the Lucky Stifle on the draw. I play like a Supreme Verdict or a Swords of Plowshares or something to help. Fire Ice is probably not necessary on the draw. Like, my opponent can sneak 4 drops in under it in a meaningful way. Let's go 2 more Answers to an Urza Saga on the draw. If I make it to turn 2 before my opponent plays something meaningful, as we saw, Lavinia is just kind of nuts. There is some degree of risk in just keeping this hand. We'll see how it goes. Yes. There's a Monolith. So it looks like my opponent might be able to go under me. Ooh, fuck, their start is fast. So there's the untap. This is up to 4 mana on turn 1. Yeah. I'm actually happier it's that than like a Mystic Forge or something that would allow them to continue from there. Like, don't get me wrong, this is still bad. But there is some real chance that I make it to turn 2 without my opponent having a Karn or Mystic Forge in play. Okay, they're going for mana, which means they have a payoff card. F, yep. There's a key. That can untap the One Ring. And life's bad. Again, Lavinia will help, but the damage might be done already. Uh-huh. No, that's sack Lotus Petal, untap key again. Just draw a gajillion. Oh, it's Monolith, actually. Sure. Okay. So life's bad. We're gonna get a Tundra and a Valk. Then drop my lady. So she will temporarily keep the threatening 4 drops out of play. However, I think my position is still quite bad. Like, my opponent has 7 cards after that activation, and they can still just do Voltaic Key nonsense. Oh, it's a Dismember. I expect that I'm dead here. So, my opponent's made a lot of mana. He's going for more. Oh, okay. If you haven't seen this before, my opponent now gets to untap all of their artifacts each time they cast a spell. So they are pseudo-infinite. I'm going to skip to me being dead, because this is a slow combo to execute. And there is a Gargantuan Walking Ballista, which will indeed kill me. My turn 2 Lavinia on the draw was not strong enough. GG's. Alright, I have kept sort of an unexciting hand for this round. I will probably just punk a fetch land if my opponent plays one on turn 1. Oh, so we're doing this again. Lavinia confirmed best card in fucking the entire Legacy format. Just in case anyone was curious. I probably just win the game with Teferi on my next turn. Yeah. So, land drop, fetch, bulk, Teferi. My opponent just is not having a good time. So this ruins all of my opponent's Cascade stuff. And we still just have Force of Will for things like, what is it, Boarding Party. Alright, my opponent has conceded. So, I would like Lavinia, Hydroblasts, Luster Storms. I think I boarded this one in before to have an extra win condition. Don't want Prismatic Endings. Supreme Verdict and Swords to Plowshares are kind of whatever. Like, I might need some number of them to just keep up with fair things from my opponent. Board that out, board this in, trim one of those. 2 swords? Nah, I want 3. So, I have Lavinia in my deck. And I have 2 of them. I think I am supposed to mulligan at least somewhat aggressively for looks at that card. This is just a turn 3 to fairy. That's fine. Opponent's going to 4. And they've kept on 4. 3 dual lands plus Creative Technique gets them to where they need to be. It's fucking rude. Alright, let's just play a land and pass the turn. I'll island cycle this at end step. Fetch. Tundra. Cycle. Volk. That should cover a lot of my bases. Do I want to ponder? Suppose there is very little harm in pondering. I don't want this right now. I'm going to draw Swords to Plowshares. Let's just make this land drop and pass. Okay. Alright, opponent doesn't have it yet. Is it an instant? No, it's a sorcery. Okay, so then I can just end of turn fetch. I have bad vibes. I'm going to upkeep fetch. I have no reason why I should have bad vibes, but I do. So here we are. Oh. Well, fuck. Alright, well now I know. Okay. I will absolutely Hydroblast. Let's take out one of those. My opponent hits Apex Devastator. It's Boarding Party. Which hits Creative Technique. Luster Storm. This one is going there. Alright, Fluster Storm clears. More Cascade happens. Finding Maelstrom Wanderer. Getting the Phoenix. Getting Creative Technique. Getting a Phoenix. There's a Boarding Party. At this point, I think they're more or less out of shit. Like, there's still a couple of creatures that they'll hit off Apex Devastator, but the Creative Techniques have stopped. I think there's just too much fair power in play for one bounce to get me out of this situation. This is a lot of power. So I am comfortable conceding here. The game where I'm on the play is much easier. So now I know to watch out for the flash thing. Frame Verdict in theory seems better than Swords to Plowshares to clear out lots of things if it happens. But I think the plan is stop the lots of things from happening. And like this is just the backup for once I stop that stuff so that I don't just die to random 6 drops. Yeah, that's fine. This is probably good enough when I am on the play. So land drop. Let's remove that stop, call it a turn. There's a tapped land. We'll go ahead and just grab a volcanic island preemptively. Pass the turn. What do we have here? Are you just getting rhinos now? Is that what's happening? Tybalt's Trickery. No. Just absolutely not. So, I will drop a Teferi, which helps with a lot of the nonsense. I'm just going to minus immediately and start digging for the next land. Slash another blue card to pitch to Force of Negation in case things get weird. Okay. Alright, yeah, they just lost a land there to move forward. I'll go ahead and pass the turn here. We will go ahead and Exarch. We'll tap one of my opponent's lands. We still got Force of Negation in case things get spicy. But I have a win as soon as I draw a 4th land, which unfortunately I did not do this turn. And that's okay, but slightly concerning. Otawara my Teferi out of play. Yes. Alright, so there is Cascade. My opponent goes into Tybalt's Trickery, and they have no mana. I'm going to fluster that so that I can just Swords to Plowshares this creature as well. Alright. And this leaves my opponent with just an Ancient Tomb in play. Okay, alright, they've got Dwarven Ruins too. Have some life. Alright, there's the next land drop. Tundra. Splinter Twin. That'll do it. GG's. Alright, final round opening hand is what I would consider fine. We have 1 cantrip, we have both halves of the Splinter Twin combo in hand, and I have the ability to play Teferi and Fire Ice as bridge cards. Alright, my opponent has done nothing with their first turn. Suspicious. I guess I will hold up Swords to Plowshares. Opponent has done nothing with their second turn. Actively scary. Do Volcanic Island. I will Island Cycle. I'm going to awkwardly get Tundra. Yeah, we're passing the turn here. Ice was supposed to be my interaction for this turn cycle. I might just be using it to draw a card. Okay. So we know what's up now. There's a Wild Cantor. My Source of Plowshares is not going to interact with that. Neither is my Fire or my Ice. I think when a lethal spell is put on the stack, I will Ice myself to attempt to draw Force of Will. I don't think I do that beforehand. Maybe I should have, because Force of Negation doesn't hit the creatures. I think this is my moment where I cast Ice. Let's take an extra draw here. It is Ponder, so that's not going to do anything. My opponent makes a land drop, does the sacrifice thing. Okay, they have Spirit Guide and do the sacrifice thing. So that's going to get me. So let's just do the check here. Narcomoebas, there's the Oracle. The Dread Return is in hand, but they have check for Cabal Therapy. Yeah, there's Cabal Therapy to get it out. So I'm going to concede here and not show any more information. All right. So I would like Surgical. Probably want Lavinia. Nullrod has text, I suppose. If I board in Nullrod, I maybe need to think about not playing the One Ring. Sanctifier Invect is reasonable. Dress Down is reasonable. So I can go down the copies of the One Ring to board in this stuff. I'm not overly excited about Fire Ice here. I'm not overly excited about Swords to Plowshares here. They all kind of like technically on paper do stuff. Not the most excited about Prismatic Ending either. Or Supreme Verdict for that matter. This is reasonable. I'm just going to think for a second if I want the One Ring more than some of this other stuff. I don't think so. This is fine. This is awkward if my opponent goes off on turn 1, but otherwise leaves me with 2 different reasonable turn 2 plays that aren't necessarily on the same traditional axis that they might be expecting. Oh, fuck. All right, they're just going. Yes. All right, so I will Brainstorm and attempt to hit an out to that. Let's go Tundra and Brainstorm. Miss. I'm dead. I mean, that sucks. I don't think the hand's a mulligan. Like, if my opponent intends on fighting against the expected counterspells and, like, waits a turn or 2 to be able to fight through them, that keeps perfectly reasonable. Summoner's Pact in response for a Spirit Guide. It may have been that they just had Something that would have beaten a counterspell anyway. Alright, there's the Dread Return. And I just eat it 2 Thassa's Oracle, unfortunately. We still end up with a positive finish of a 3-2, but I really expected better in this league. So how do we feel about our good friend Splinter Twin here at the end of the day? It was fun to play this deck, but honestly, I kind of felt like I got some lucky top decks that won me some games. Like, I absolutely ripped Splinter Twin off the top in, I think, 2 lethal on-board situations. I don't think this deck is bad. I just wonder if I am supposed to play more copies of my actual win conditions so I don't have to get quite so lucky. Like, I don't know how important some of this stuff is, for example. Like, this stuff does not feel essential to the deck list. And Splinter Twin on its own in this deck is a bad draw. You don't have other random creatures that you can staple it to, so I understand wanting to play fewer copies of these things. Kind of what I'm wondering at the end of the day is, like, is this really better than just playing one of the best control finishers ever printed? And the answer is probably no, but this deck is a lot of fun, and if I was playing for, like, personal enjoyment, I would probably run this back for another league and, like, be interested in tuning this a little bit further. Lorien Revealed was very good this league. I know we didn't use its draw 3 mode, but just having a cantrip that always hits a land in a control/combo deck that wants to get to 4 mana is, I think, very important. Expect to see a lot more of that card in Legacy moving forward. Lavinia, honestly, was the star of this league, more so than the Splinter Twin combo. Like, this thing just absolutely went and won me some games, or at the very least was presenting a win as early as turn 2. I think this is a great sideboard choice. If you find yourself in blue-white, this is a slam dunk. Hey, and if you need to order any copies of it for Paper Magic, check out Cool Stuff Inc. and use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on your order. And folks, I hope you have a great rest of the day. See ya!